Ajinulambita Bujo Kanaka Vadatu Sankirtanai Gapijaro Pramanaya Chakshu Vishwambaro Dijaguru Yugadharma Paro Vande Karapirapro Namasaro Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sarita Gagadai Pushpalandra Chitrasana Devam Shri Ramakrishna Amaya Sharanam Sadhu Sukado Paramanando Sundaro Surapriyo Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopina Kanta Radha Namostute Kanchan Gaurangye Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Ramani Harihe Shri Guru Vishnu Guru Parampara Ki Jai Shri Shri Gaurada Madhava Ki Jai Shri Gauram Puja Mahamurti Ki Jai Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Haribo. Welcome everyone. Given the occasion of the Govardhan Puja, I will depart from our normal course of discussing, as we have been, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and entertain a discussion centered around the Govardhan Lila, Govardhan Puja, significance for us as followers of Sriman Gaur Ki Jai. So we know that the express in the same measure the concept of lila, all that the word implies, means its ramifications. Play is the exclusive domain of Vrindavan, movements of Krishna in Vrindavan. Outside of Vrindavan, he has some work to do, establishing the Dharma, speaking the Bhagavad Gita, and so forth, and so on. And so, even if you study the Bhagavatam, you'll see that the word Leela is not used as directly any of the descriptions of the movements of Krishna outside of Vrindavan. Only that he effortlessly did something, perhaps slayed someone or something like that. So anyway, the realm of Vrindavan is the center focus of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Vaishnavas, and the Govardhan Leela plays a significant role therein. And that shows up, of course, in the Leela of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu itself. And it is appropriate and customary, for good reasons, to say something about the Gaur Leela, and in this instance, in this case, something about Govardhan Leela as it plays out in Gaur Leela, before we say anything directly, further about Krishna Leela in Vrindavan. In other words, the system is that, and this is really what we're hearing about in Chaitanya Charitamrita now in our discussions. It's just about to come in a very strong language from the lotus mouth of pen, the lotus pen of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He will say in our next session something to the effect that those who worship Krishna do not worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He calls them asuras. Very strong language. We have to go into and explain that for us. The point being that of course it's very simple in a sense that Krishna is coming in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and you ignore him in the name of worshiping Krishna, who is not only coming in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but coming to give Krishna in the language of Prabhupada as he is, right? That is also means as he is, means the Brajavila, Swami Bhagavan, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So again, it's appropriate to this is our method of approach, the means to our madness, that we will approach the Krishna Leela through Gaur Leela. And there's so many parallels, obviously. As we said, I think last night, there is some opening in the Krishna in the center, the deepest reach within Krishna Leela. Looks like you've just got to the bottom of Krishna Leela, or to the top of it, however you may, let's say the bottom, the ocean of Krishna Leela, and suddenly a door opens, right? And there's another Leela. It is, if you understand it properly, of course, it's an extension of the Krishna Leela. It affords Krishna something that his own Leela did not afford him. I say that Krishna Leela was a failure. His pursuit of love was not fulfilled in that Leela. There needed to be, and he's a very creative fellow, very maybe say resourceful. Like Americans, they're resourceful people. Krishna's very resourceful, and he so another Leela coming forth, kind of like a reverse jacket. I've given an example before where it's a black jacket with gold cuffs. You turn it around, it's a gold jacket with black cuffs. This is the difference between Krishna Lila and Gaur Lila, where the object of love takes the position of the vessel of love. So the Gaur Lila makes its appearance there in Gaur Lila in a number of places, and it has a very central message also. I've often said that I look at the Bhagavatam as the theological sequel to the Bhagavad Gita. And this is a good example where the Bhagavad Gita leaves off, Sarvadharman Pratyaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja. Aham Tom Sarvapapa Vimokshayashami Masucha. This verse, the Gita. Surrender unto me, give up Dharma, I will protect you, and so forth. This statement is the central point that the entire Govardhan Lila is arising out of. A philosophical point and then tell a whole story to explain it. So this is an example, as I say, of how the Krishna Lila is the sequel to the Bhagavatam, I should say, is the sequel to the Gita, theologically speaking. We'll go into it. But that's a central point, obviously. In the Gita, Krishna is giving the statement there, and he's teaching how to enter into his world. So it's not that the Mathura and the Dwarka Leelas aren't useful to us, aren't important when I say that they're not the full expression of Leela, but they're showing us how to enter into the full spirit of Leela. This is the central message of the Gita as understood by the Gaudias, how to find Krishna in Vrindavan, from Kurukshetra to Vrindavan. And this is central Sharanagati, to surrender and so forth. So it shows up in Gaur Lila. I would say that perhaps the first instance of that is in the very kind of worldly genesis of the Gaur Lila, in terms of its being its setting of a lineage, a sampradaya, teaching. Jiva Goswami in his Sarvasambhadani has described Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the founder of his own sampradayas, own lineages stemming from him, like various streams from the Ganges as it enters into the Bay of Bengal, stemming from his different associates groups, Natan, the Goswamis, Nityananda Prabhu, Gadadhar Parivar, so on and so forth. He's the founder, Jiva Goswami says, of his own sampradaya. And that said, in relation to the lineage itself, the sampradaya, we know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a guru. We've heard the beautiful explanation from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in speaking to Prabhupada Saraswati as to what he heard from his guru, what instructions he was given, how he took them to heart, and what was the result. It was very extraordinary and very pleasing to his guru, that given instructions, you do like this, chant Krishna Nam, Krishna Mantra, and when Mahaprabhu reported the results back, he was very pleased with him, as Ishwar Puri, of course. And Ishwar Puri had a guru, and Madhavendra Puri, who was also the guru of Nityananda Prabhu and other senior associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, senior in age and whatnot in the context of the Leela. And it's said by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami that Madhavendra Puri, in him the seed of what we find the fruit and flower of the person of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is found. Early beginnings manifesting in Madhavendra Puri, very important person. And the Govardhan Leela and its prominence in Lord Leela draws first our minds, as I say, chronologically to Madhavendra Puri and the respect Mahaprabhu showed for Madhavendra Puri, his own experience at Govardhan Hill, where he is depicted as a Sharanagata, right? It is said that Madhavendra Puri, and the story is told in Chaitanya Charitamrita, was living in the Braj, and he kept himself such that he did not do anything directly himself to maintain himself by way of having a job, to get money, to get food, and neither did he accept, did he beg, neither did he beg, which is, that sounds like a bad thing, guys in the Western culture, but there's a place for beggars, the bhikshu, the beggar, the madhukari. Madhukari was the system of the tyagis, the renunciates in the Braj. Madhukari, kari means to make, and madhu means honey. So how do they make honey? They go from one flower to the next, to the next, to the next, and they collect a little pollen. They don't stay in one flower. So the Madhukari is the system for renunciates. It's a system, if you will, in the Braj. So that a renunciate come to your door and beg, and then it's understood that, oh, there's a sadhu here who's begging. He doesn't make any effort to collect food himself. He's preoccupied with the spiritual culture directly, and certainly we can benefit from his association. The least we could do is feed him, something like that. And so that's called Madhukari. Once I was met with some criticism of my Guru Maharaj, Mr. Swami Prabhupada, because a fellow said that it's the business of renunciates to do Madhukari, not to fly around in big airplanes. That's what he said. Imagine somebody saying that to you about your guru. I mean, it's just so unbecoming. So lacking an understanding of the very principle of guru and the faith that it's based on and so forth, rather than encouraging it because it comes in a different place. And even one where we see a very tangible result to criticize. Anyway, so I said, yeah, I've heard that kind of thing before. But my Guru Maharaj flew to New York to do Madhukari there, where there's no system. There's no system for beggars. So if you show up at the door in Bowery in New York, he may not get a chapati. He don't even know what one is. There's no system. He went there and he lived on his faith in the holy name, and he depended completely on that. And of course, he got very tangible results from that. He got airplane tickets to keep going around the world and sharing his faith in the holy name. So if you look, the point being, if you look at the two situations, drop you off in the winter in New York, in your later part of your life, in your 60s, first time in the country, dressed in your pajamas, as it would seem, and good luck.
Good luck.
Or you say, one of my godbrothers I met one year in Vrindavan, and we were chatting, and he said, I'm going to such and such place in the Braj. You should come with me, he said. Madhukari is very good there. I said, Maharaj, you don't understand Madhukari to say such a thing. But he meant, there they butter the chapati. It was something like that. They give a lot over there. So this is the kind of thinking that Raghunath Das Goswami found surfacing in his own mind. He was living in Puri. He had given up the family life. His parents were very wealthy, so they were sending him an allowance every month. So he was taking the money and spending it by having festivals and inviting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates to dine and so forth. And then after a while, he thought, here I am, and as a renunciate, and I'm getting an allowance from home. It's very unbecoming. So he refused to receive that allowance, and instead he went to the Singhadwara, the Lion's Gate, and people would come from the temple bearing some Mahaprasadam that they had gotten in the temple, and the beggars would be there, and they would give some Mahaprasadam. So he said, I found myself, more or less, he said, I found myself thinking, that one gave today, that one didn't give. I'll avoid him, I'll go to him. And so he was thinking about, filling his belly somehow or other, which was it's not the spirit of the Madhukari. It's more to give to those who are apparently giving food by way of an example and precept of the fact that eating is the cause of death. That's, of course, the lesson that Raj Parikshit Maharaj learned. And that's why he fasted, to hear the Bhagavatam, because he realized I was hungry. And on the basis of that, I did something unbecoming. I put a garland of dead snake around the head of a sage who didn't give me water and food because of the pressing of my senses for material necessities, and catering to that, I'm dying. Then he was cursed. The philosophical point is that the struggle to eat is the cause of the death. Eating is killing us. We're taking, in other words. As much as we take, and we owe. And so, as much we're involved in the taking rather than giving, we have to remain in the cycle of birth and death. Of course, there's a gradual way to wean oneself from that and become a giver and so on and so forth. Everybody can't be Raghunath Das Goswami or Maharaj Parikshit, but these are philosophical points worth considering. So Das Goswami, of course, then he gave up the begging also at the Singhadwara. Eventually he found his meals in the back of the temple, where after the prasadam had been distributed, if there were some crumbs left and grains of rice, they would be given to the cows. And Raghunath Das was going there, and what the cows had left behind, he was taking grains of rice and washing them and eating them. And one day Mahaprabhu came and snatched the rice from his hand and said, again, you're having festivals, and you did not invite me. It's an example of how Mahaprabhu respected the renunciation of Raghunath Das Goswami, whose example we cannot follow. But his example is important, like that of the other Goswamis in this regard, because at the time, one of the things that they were doing was trying to establish the fact that meditation on Radha and Krishna and bhakti was not any lesser of a renowned path and position than that of those who directly focus on renunciation. In other words, the Gyan Marg of the, let's say, that the followers of Shankar. That path proceeds by vairagya. So by its detachment is the method. By the cultivation of detachment, among other things, one is thought to make progress. And in bhakti, it's just the opposite. By the cultivation of attachment, we make progress. attachment to devotees, attachment to Bhagwan, attachment to his name and so forth by Sangha. But as a result of attachment to Krishna, then it's understandable logically, we will give up things that are not pleasing to Krishna. So the renunciation is just the natural letting go of things that aren't favorable to the object of our attachment and love. So it's in this way, it's a byproduct. And this is a much more friendly way, if you will, of arriving at any kind of renunciation, rather than fasting, offering very nicely to Krishna. He happens to leave the remnants so often. So it's easier. And the classical example, it's very beautiful in the Bhagavatam, is Uddhava. Uddhava, he makes a statement. He says, in the Bhagavatam, he says, and our renunciation is that we wear the hand-me-downs of Krishna. Because this is the royal life of Krishna. Krishna had fancy garments, royal vestments, and so forth. And every now and then he decided, I don't want to wear that one anymore. I'm tired of that outfit. And so Uddhava would get it. I don't know if it had 4 arms or 2 arms. I guess they were both for different occasions, because they're in Dwarka sometimes. They're That's not so easy. That's the heart of that. It's a very comprehensive approach to renunciation. So the Goswamis, like Raghunath Das Goswami, wanted to teach us that we're not like, we're not. Bhakti is not just a sentiment. It's a heart inside of a body with a head of Vedanta. It's a heart with the head of Vedanta. It's not just a sentimental, touchy-feely type of affectionate, so-called affectionate life. I'm okay, you're okay. It's not like it's grounded in Vedanta. It's well-wise love. It's well thought out. What am I to start with? I'm talking about being happy and loving. That's all good, but what are you? This is the question, right? Then from that perspective, are you materialist? Are you physical? Then questionable whether there's any love, right? If you're a transcendentalist, a mystic, what persuasion of knowledge or of love, and anyway, so on. So bhakti, very beautiful idea, and the renunciation in this very comprehensive. And the Goswamis were establishing a sampradaya, a lineage, and here they were. I mean, we see it in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the chapter we just read. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing in public with instruments and other fanatics, and as it would appear, those who were visibly thought to be the spiritual people, the sannyasis, they're all sitting there real sober and looking at this display and thinking, what's this? This isn't the business of a sannyasi. And they had largely a monopoly on the spirituality. The Advaitins and their religious renunciate, the Advaitin renunciates, the sannyasis, and their religious counterpart, the Smartas. So they had the religious turf and spiritual turf covered, and in order to attain their dry idea of mukti, you had to be born as a Brahmin, and in one of those lives, born as a Brahmin, become a sannyasi and walk off naked into the Himalayas, something like that, so that you could merge into Brahman. And so they were, because detachment is part of the path itself, it's cultivated directly. And this dressing in the ashes is an example of that. The Goswamis, I mean, there's no need for that, right, in bhakti. And again, Buddha was wearing the vestments of Krishna. So he's not looking overtly like a renunciate, looking like an enjoyer, like a prince, like a royal person, something like that. There are other examples in the book. Ambarish Maharaj, Parikshit was an emperor, and so on and so forth. These are ostensibly the worldly positions. You have the two stories, the stories of kings throughout the Bible, many stories of kings. All of them are saying, among other things, having money is not having everything. You can have all the money and still not be happy. But there are also the stories of the devotee kings, right? Parikshit Maharaj is central, Yudhisthira Maharaj, and Ambarish Maharaj, and so forth. And they look like worldly people. Therefore, Vaishnavera Kriyamudribhidin Nabujaya. Again, we were citing this. It's difficult to understand the Vaishnava, what is his heart, and so forth. But the Goswamis, in establishing the Gaudiya Sampradaya in their time, they apparently felt that they had to set some overt standard of renunciation in order to register with the people that they were spiritual, and to make the point that Radha and Krishna's Leela is well, it appears to be the love affair of a young couple. It's a transcendental affair. So anyway, Das Goswami set a very high standard of renunciation, and Madhavendra Puri did so similarly in the Braj. There he did not go and directly procure. he did not also either go by begging. What did he eat? We don't know, but he sat and he said at Govardhan, and there he chanted. And in the context of his bhajan, in the midst of his bhajan, a young boy appeared and brought him a pot of milk, condensed milk, very nourishing, some sweet rice, something like that. And he said, "Who are you?" And he was very charmed by the boy. And he said, "This is my village. I live here. I preside here. And there are people here who maintain themselves by agriculture, by growing food, for example, or trading their own wares for food. There are those who only eat what comes to them by begging. And for those who don't do either of these, I come and I feed them. So please, you drink this." So there he drank. He was a Sharanagata. He was Gopkritve Varanam Tata. This is the center of Sharanagati, that completely dependent upon Krishna. And this is how it played out in his life. Very extraordinary standard. And then he dozed low in the night, sleeping, and then in the night he had a dream. And the same boy that had come to him before his eyes to bring him the condensed milk said, "Actually, I reside here, but most people don't know it, and I'm hidden. I'm hidden in the, and I've been here for a long time, and it's hot, summer especially. So you please come and get me out." And he woke from his dream. The dream broke, and he woke, and he realized the boy was Krishna, had come to him, and that he was somewhere in the jungle, in the deity form. And so, in the morning, this beggar, right? Nobody knows him. He's just living out under a tree, different tree every night. Went to the village and said, and was by the measure of his enthusiasm and realization and insight, he was able to speak in such a compelling way that all the village men came together to assist him and go through the brush, cutting and looking for the deity of Krishna. He was able to, the strength that it wasn't philosophical. I had a dream. And in the dream, there was Krishna, and he was offering freedom to everyone. Freedom through slavery, divine slavery. It's a little different dream. Anyway, he was able to rouse the whole village to assist him. Because it's the power of his experience. He didn't have to convince them philosophically this, that, and I had a dream, and they could see it, and it was contagious. Something like so. They all gathered together, and they found the deity that had been hidden there, perhaps from previous times when the Mughals attacked, as they would, the temples and do religious, sacrilegious activities by trying to destroy the temples and the deities. So the devotees hid the deity, and the temple was demolished. Been there for a long time. So Nathji was found, and then he told the further the dream, establish me on the hill, on Govardhan Hill, and make a festival. And so the enthusiasm of Madhavendra Puri continued such that everybody, all the women cooked and the men prepared, made a temple, and everybody came, the whole village, with mountains of chapatis and mountains of rice and mountains of sweet balls, and so all stacked up and offered to the deity. And when the whole village had done this and completed it, surrounding villages wanted to have the chance to do it as well, as it's described in the Chartament. So for a week or so, now it's your village's turn, and everybody would come and cook, and the whole thing, bring an offer to the deity of Krishna on Govardhan Hill. Hmm? So this is the Anakut festival. They were puja. This is, of course, how it's described in the Bhagavatam, that all of the inhabitants of Vrindavan came forward with stacks of chapatis and mountains of rice and so on and so forth. We'll get to that, but as the preface, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the story is told in Chaitanya Charitamrita of the Param Guru of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his finding of the Nathji and his celebrating of the Anakut of the Govardhan Puja. It's basically the first kind of celebration of Govardhan Puja in the Gaudiya Sampradaya on the part of the Param Guru of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so good beginning into the Krishna Lila. Of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu later, he came to Vrindavan and he wanted to have the darshan of Gopal deity that Madhavendra had found, but he had such regard for Govardhan Hill that he was reluctant to walk itself. In the Bhagavatam, Krishna himself shows himself to be the hill, right? So he didn't want to walk on the hill. And then Krishna made an arrangement, Gopal deity made an arrangement that the moguls would attack that night. And the devotees would take the deity and off the hill and hide them in a little temple. It was just near where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was staying. So that Mahaprabhu got the darshan. Afterwards, then the moguls left and the deity went back up. Later, Rupa Goswami came to Vrindavan. He wanted to have the darshan of Gopal. And he thought how it was, he'd heard the story, how Gopal had come down off the hill by his own arrangement, by bringing in the moguls, and that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had the darshan. He was marveling at this. And the same thing happened then for him. The moguls attacked the deities and moved, and he had the darshan of the Gopal deity. So, his remembrances of Govardhan Leela in Chaitanya Leela, and of course Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was given a stone from Govardhan, a small stone, and that stone he used to worship, bathing him every day with his tears. And he would rub him, massage him, and bathe him. And if you go to the Radha Gokulananda temple in Vrindavan, that stone is there. It's about maybe an inch by an inch. And it's garlanded with the gunjamala, little beads that red and black beans kind of turn into beads that make a necklace out of them, right? And there's an indentation in the stone. It's very smooth, and there's an indentation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's thumbprint. When holding it, one day it melted. That's how received was the worship, well received on the part of the stone was the worship of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with such feeling that the stone melted and his thumbprint is there. Then he gave that stone to who? To Raghunath Das. And the Gunjamala. And when he received the Govardhan Shila, then he thought, Mahaprabhu has given me a place at Govardhan. Mahaprabhu would wear the Gunjamala around his neck at the time that he would worship the deity by holding and weeping. That was the Seva Puja every morning. And so he gave the stone, and then he gave the Gunjamala. And Raghunath Das concluded, he's given me a place at Govardhan in the Leela, the eternal Leela. And that in the service of Radha. Mahaprabhu taught him just how to worship Govardhan Shila very simply. He was given instructions, a little Ganga Jal, some Tulsi leaf, Tulsi manjaris. It's different than the normal requirements and procedures for worshiping the Vishnu Shaligram. Many items are required, 64 items, do it right, and so many things. So some, of course, foolish Brahmins Kali Yuga Brahmins reasoned, oh, well, this guy Raghunath Das, he was not a Brahmin, so he couldn't worship the Shalagram. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him some stone for Govardhan, whatever that is, because he's not qualified to worship, to do Archan. Whereas never mind that Archan is an anga of bhakti. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasam, Sakamatam, given by Prahlad Maharaj. Any Vaishnav has eligibility to worship the deity. And some guru may require to come to a certain standard or whatnot, but it's certainly Raghunath Das was highly qualified. Indeed, the Govardhan Shila apparently requires much less for the worship, which would apparently mean that he can be worshipped by a less qualified person than the Shalagram. But the fact is just the opposite. You see, the more there is love, the less there is a need for laws, rules, procedures, and the less things are involved. And the less there is love, the more there is need for things. I will offer things because I love things. So things, and that way I kind of offer myself indirectly in all the rules and procedures and so on and so forth. Whereas in love, then Mahaprabhu was just bathing him with his tears. In other words, you have to give your whole heart to worship the Govardhan. He's the Raghunar deity. He's come from Vrindavan. What is a stone in Vrindavan compared to a Shaligram? So the Govardhan Shiva actually requires more adhikari, more eligibility. At least you have to have your sights set on Vrindavan, this ideal, hold Pujla Raga Patagoda Bhangi Matalari Dana Kirtana. Keep that over your head. Well, for some worship, to do the kirtan, sankirtan, which is the main method of given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so Raghunath Das, most qualified, more qualified than any Brahman, right? This way, Govardhan Leela shows up, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu another way. Of course, he saw that at a certain point he started to see, he saw, for example, the sand dune in Puri. He thought it was Govardhan Hill. And he just ran after it, chanting the verse from the Bhagavatam, the Venu Gita, said it would be spoken by Radha herself, glorifying Govardhan Hill. And he passed out along the way, went into a trance, found himself at Govardhan Hill, and got opportunity to render service like an Anjali to Radha and Krishna as an attendant of the Sakhis. So these are some instances in which the Govardhan Leela shows up, if you will, according to Govardhan, in Gaur Leela. And the Leela itself, as I say, is beautifully played out in the Bhagavatam in a number of chapters. We read a nice explanation an insightful explanation of it this morning, given by Pujapad Bhakti Rakshak Goswami Maharaj. And he made some significant points there. As I say, it is a Leela that plays out in story form the concluding verse of the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita concludes with the idea of doing Sharanagati, depending only on Krishna, not on any other gods, goddesses, all of whom are dependent upon for different things. Right? Worship the sun god for this, the moon god for that, and the wind god for this and that, and so on and so forth. But all of whom, in terms of the gods and goddesses' ability to bestow anything, benediction is also, as Krishna says in the Gita, dependent upon him. So Gita concludes by saying, give up this varnashram in which there's the worship of all these different gods and goddesses, and Vishnu worship is included, just another god. But don't think like that. And that worship is all about worshiping to get something. So it's the low end of loving. Like I said, in a certain point in Vrindavan, when we used to go there, then all the shopkeepers would have Prabhupada's picture there. And we would think, oh, he likes Prabhupada. No, he likes your business, and he knows that you like Prabhupada, so he likes Prabhupada too. He likes the picture. He puts the garland. He says, oh, Prabhupada, Swami Prabhupada. But if you can hear well enough from his heart, he's saying, I love your business. I love your money. So this is Varnashram. This is what it's about. So Mahaprabhu said, that's not the goal of life. That's not the ultimate in religious and spiritual adherence and pursuits. No, it's something much more than that. We haven't even gotten to what consciousness is here. We're worshiping God for things. God, how boring from God's perspective. You're not a thing, and you want things. Your consciousness, not matter, and you want matter, which doesn't matter unless you matter about it. So you're so much more significant. If that's what you want, okay. So. But no, he's a good God, so he tries to bring us a little further along. This is the end of the Gita. Don't do Varnashram. It means there are many gods, worship many gods, worship no God. It means, really. So one God instead. One God. Mamekam, only me, he says. And what? I will protect you. And this call for Sharanagati is the outer expression of Shraddha, of faith. Faith is tangible, and its tangible expression is in the sixfold Sharanagati, which is an anga of bhakti. And the central hub, the tatastha, the Swarup Lakshana, the primary characteristic of Sharanagati is dependence, Gopritvevanam Tata. Dependence, a mood of dependence. For each of these limbs of Sharanagati, there's a mood that corresponds with them. Like Anukul Pratikul, giving up the unfavorable, accepting the favorable. The mood behind it is a commitment, like a promise. I promise I will chant this many rounds, and I won't forego that. This is the mood behind accepting the favorable or rejecting the unfavorable. Then some particular Rakshikshati Vishvashvo. This means confidence. Krishna will protect me. So the mood is Vishvas. It's that we spoke about it with another term last night. Vishwamba. Vishwambena Guru Seva, always speaking about that. So confidence, Krishna will protect me. And dependence, Krishna will sustain me. And then humility, which is this mood of its own, and self-resignation, Atmanikshep, resign myself over to him, like an animal with its owner, something like that. So these are the angas, the limbs of Sharanagati, and the moods behind them. And the central hub of that is this Gopritvevanam Tata, dependence upon Krishna, not upon any other god or goddess, for example. And this is what we call, as I say, in Bhagavad Gita, if the Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur referred to it as the clarion call, the flute sound of Krishna. Puja Pachita Maharaj renders the verse with his explanation that here's the conclusion of the Gita, and Krishna says, Sarvadharman Prityaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja. Here the word Braja is a verb. It means come to me. So give up all other dharmas, ideas of dharma, worship of different gods and goddesses, and come to me alone. But a word may have different meanings. And the primary meaning is the meaning that most readily brings to mind. So amongst devotees, the word Braj means Vrindavan. Oh, so that's not the meaning in the verse, but Sridhar Maharaj said, when Krishna said this, Mame Kam Saranam Braja, his own mind went to Braj. Then he couldn't speak anymore. End of the Bhagavad Gita. Oh. He's attracted. And it's open. And this is how you have to go there. You have to become a surrendered soul. And Braj is a place of movement. Everyone there is following the movement of what? What are they following? It's a moving place. I'll give you a hint. It's a nomadic environment. Following the cows. That's what they're the cow followers, cow people. Yes, they need new. And so Krishna's born in Mahavan, Gokul, and then for more grasses, fresh grasses, they come to Vrindavan and Govardhan. Beautiful story describing this and so forth. It also means that the spiritual life, the Vrindavan life, it's very flexible. There's openness to, it's not black and white, set in one's ways, rigid, it's very flexible. You have to be ready to move, something like that. Turn left, turn right, stand up, sit down. Prabhupada had us like that, stand up, sit down. I said stand up, sit down. We were very, of course it was out of affection for it, not really out of ordering in some way. It felt it was like some order or law that was onerous, and there was moved by his affectionate dealings, and the ideas that he had were so exciting to us. So Jiva Goswami explains Braj as all things possible. All things possible. All things harmonized. And that's what if you look carefully at it, everything's harmonized there. Everything is going on there. But it's okay. Because you get the point. Because Krishna is the center. As I said before, when the devotee asked me, Maharaj, is there any real sex life in the spiritual world? I mean, real sex life. And I replied, no, you don't understand. There's no real sex life in the material world. Everything's centered on Krishna. Even qualities that aren't centered on Krishna are only shadows of such in this world. Honesty amongst thieves. What is that? To share the loot honestly. We have a criminal tendency in this world. That is the influence of karma. So to be an honest person. The word satam, honest, it's synonymous with devotee. Dharma projitikaita vota paramoni amad saranam satam. Satam prasangam amavir sambhagavata. Throughout the Bhagavatam, this is coming truthful, thoroughly honest, truthful. This is the devotee. This is a lot of people think of themselves that they're going to be just really hip-hop honest, and just tell it like it is and so forth. We have a challenge for them in that regard. How honest it's going to be. Stop taking. In that spirit, a young man asked me not long ago, sounds really good and everything, but what about, they're doing this and they're doing that and they're doing this and they're doing corporatism and politicians, and how are we going to protect ourselves from them? And I said, when you understand that you are them, then you can begin to make a solution to the problem. It's just like a herd of cows. You see one small cow in the herd always getting pushed around, so you feel sorry for with your human sensibilities and so forth. And then you put her in a herd where she's bigger, and then she'll start pushing everybody around. This is unfortunate, the nature of the animal in us, if you will. Of course, it's not the most pleasant example to use because cows, we love them, and they are, again, that which Vrindavan is moving around. Cows are givers. That's the idea in all the literature and art, and Krishna is depicted as being surrounded by cows. The implication is that the cows are givers. They eat grass, which grows even on concrete. And for that, they give milk. Now you compare milk to grass. And from a human perspective, obviously, and the cat's perspective, cow is much better. The milk is much better than grass, much more valuable. So they give it practically for nothing. So they're in everything about the cow in Hindu culture. We find everything about it. The cow is useful for human society to be used. Even the Mridanga drum is made from cows who have passed away naturally. The leather straps and so forth, used in kirtan and so forth, and the ghee and the cow dung and the ura and everything. It's an amazing animal, and for very various human issues and for religious purposes and so forth. The idea of the sacred cow in India is a very well thought out idea. Actually, I saw in a documentary many years ago in which it traced out or tried to trace out the meeting between humanity and animality in the form of cows, the first domesticated animals. And it said, the documentary said, we don't know whether the cows domesticated the humans or the humans domesticated us. The cows made the humans civilized. They were hunters and gatherers. They were killing cows. And the cow said, don't kill me, and I will give you more. If you keep me, I will give you more than if you kill me. If you kill me, then you can eat me for a few months, and then you'll be out. But if you keep me, my husband here, Bull, he will till the field. And you can learn to grow. And you can grow more food. You can store a whole bunch of grain for years to come from one season of keeping the cow, taking care of the cow. And Mother Cow said, and I will give you milk. And so humans became civilized. And for hunters and gatherers, the idea is they became agriculturalists. They started to use their brain. That's why they say milk is good for the brain. Makes you think more deeply. It's the idea. So they're the cows are thought to be givers, and we are taught in bhakti to be dependent, to be givers. And we may think the question may come into our mind: if I only give, then who will take care of me? And that's when Krishna appears. His name is Gopal, who protects the cows, protects the givers. He takes care of them personally. This is Vrindavan. It's a cow place. You have to get there by crossing an ocean of milk. Milk is representing affection, love. You have to swim a whole ocean of affection to get there. You have to bathe in affection, love. This is Vrindavan. And there, in that place in Vrindavan, Krishna wanted the Govardhan Lila to establish the fact. It was already a fact that he was the center. But he wanted to do it overtly because ostensibly they were engaged in the Varnashram, in this instance, for example, worshipping Indra, and dependent upon Indra for rains and so on and so forth. They're going through religious motions in terms of Varnashram, in terms of Vaidhi Bhakti. Maharaj's house is the Shaligram Narasimha that they worship. As I said before, how does Nanda Maharaj do artik in his house? He offers the artik, or he has Mother Mongol offer artik. Mother Mongol, you're Brahmin, you offer the artik. He offers the artik. Everybody watches the Festival of Lights and participates. But just like when you offer the artik, mind is somewhere else often. But their minds are on Krishna. So there's a show of religious life, varnashram, a show of Vaidhi Bhakti. It means all of varnashram, its sensibilities, the good is all there in Vrindavan. Everything that you can get from Vaidhi Bhakti is also there in Vrindavan. And so much more in the Ragmarg. So much more means so much more closer to God you can get. In varnashram, you can't get too close. It's just a business deal. In Vaidhi Bhakti, you can live in on this planet, Salokya. But he's there and you're here, and the distance is bridged by Om Narayana, worship. And in Vrindavan, the object of worship, the worshipper, and the worship, they all become one. In love, we become one. You and I become we, the dynamic one. They have no thoughts, no desires. This is Bhakti. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevana. Bhakti Rishite. Krishna's desires become their desires. They have no other desire. Because particularly in the Braj, more not in Mathura and Dwarka to the same extent. They have some sense of separateness, some sense of Vedic Dharma. Rukmini could never become a Parakya lover. She just went as far as she could and asked for what do they call it? Rakshasa marriage? What's that called? Kidnap marriage. She wrote, send with a Brahmin, kidnap me. She would never just leave and go elope with him or something, because it was not right according to the Varna, according to the Dharma, according to the Veda, and so forth. Vedas thrown out the window in Vrindavan. Gyanshunya Bhakti. This is what you see. And this, in order to go there, this first step, this Sharanagati must be put in place. And the whole Leela of Govardhan is showing this. So they are worshipping Indra. Of course, that's a problem. It said that during the Damodar Leela, Krishna had been going out and stealing milk and butter and yogurt from other houses, and the ladies all complained. Mother Yashoda was in denial about it. But you know, when you're in denial about something, you give all these excuses. And she would say, well, you know, it's not his fault if he comes to your house and your butter's right there, and why don't you hang it up? We do that. But still, he climbs up, you know, on top of someone else and gets, well, why don't you put it in the dark? Well, we do that, but he lights the place up when he comes in and plays the effulgence. So one excuse after another, she's in denial, but when you're in denial, you know, when you're alone, actually he was right. So it's good to preach sometimes, even people don't listen. They got a little bit of honesty, and then they got you give them a nightmare. Like, he knows he was wrong. I was right at the answer. So anyway, she went home, and so it came out. Well, what kind of husband are you? Nanda. What kind of king of the cowards are you? What kind of father are you? Your son's going out and stealing yogurt and butter from the other people, and you have 900,000 cows. You can't even get enough milk to keep your son at home. And so, okay. And he got some special cows from the herd, put them on special grasses. It was that milk that was boiling on the stove. At the time of the year, this time of year, for the Indra Yagya. And so Mother Yashoda was home. None of them nursemaids or assistants were in the house. They were all arranging for the Indra Puja, Indra Yagya. So then she met with this dilemma. Milk is boiling over. It's special milk for Krishna. Should I put Krishna down and suckling my breast, tend to the milk, or let the milk boil over? So she opted for Tadiya Seva, to serve that which is dear to Krishna, and put Krishna down. And Krishna complained. Actually very pleasing to Krishna, but he complained. And of course she caught him, tied him up with a ribbon in her hair, and so on and so forth. And he was traumatized. Mother tied him up in the courtyard, and trees fell down. So he was traumatized as a youth, and when he grew a little older, now he's 7 years old in the Govardhan Leela, he asked his father, what's this all about, this Indra Yagya? Oh, we do this because we do it every year, and Everybody comes out and participates in this and realizes, well, that was what's going on when I was, psychologically damaged in my youth. And Indra, he's the culprit. This is the guy that's to blame. So I don't think we should worship him. And he speaks different philosophies of the time to convince Nanda Maharaj, who's not convinced by the arguments of Krishna. He gives arguments from Nyaya, from Vaisheshika, from Sankhya philosophy, and so forth. Why we should just worship, why we shouldn't worship Indra, we should worship Govardhan Hill. Nanda Maharaj is convinced just by the charm of a 7-year-old boy, citing all the current philosophical systems of the time. He's looking at him like, it's like if your son says something, profound. Well, he's only, 4 years old in a few days, and see how he does seem to be rather profound. So Krishna charmed Nanda Maharaj, and then Nanda Maharaj naturally convinced everybody else, we're going to throw the Indra Yogi. What are you talking about? And we're just going to worship Govardhan Hill. Krishna said to do it. Okay, well, let's do it. And so, and here he is like this. He ultimately, of course, Indra sends the deluge, and Krishna lifts the hill. Everyone's protected. And everything, the hill, it becomes a person, is Krishna. The rain is personified by Indra. The idea here is that matter is an idea. Matter itself is an idea. It exists. We're not Mayavadins who deny the existence of the material world, but it's not what it appears to be. A stone is an idea, but stones don't have ideas. Stone is an idea, but stones don't have ideas. So if a stone is a conception, call it a house. Ask the wood. Is that what it is? No, that's our idea. So this behind all of the configurations of matter, so to speak. And so in a microcosmic sense, so it's extended in Hinduism to include the whole macrocosm. It means simply that it's just a way of saying, Indra is a way of saying consciousness. Consciousness comes from person, there is consciousness, there are persons behind everything. Ultimately, it's Krishna. Reality is a person, which is not you. You're part of that person. Just like the Gaia, what was his name? Is he a physicist? Lovejoy? Again, the Gaia principle, he said the earth is an orgasm, or not an orgasm, no. It's an organism. Sorry, it's an organism. Excuse me. Both, I guess. It's organism. It's an organism. It's alive as a composite, right? So we say in an extended way, reality is a person. Jagadavyakta Murtina, Krishna said, the world is my form. It's more than that too. It's a panentheistic idea, but reality is a person, and we're part of that. We're one of the Shaktis, a part of one of the Shaktis of that person who's not independent of who is Shakti. So he's the fountainhead of them, but he lives in conjunction with his Shakti. He to be explained fully, you must explain him in terms of himself and his Shaktis, the powerful and the powers. So Indra, the sky god, and Krishna, sky god is one thing, and he's a creation, and Krishna is the creator, something like that. So in the Govardhan Lila, he shows himself, and he draws everyone's attention to simply taking shelter of Vrindavan, which is none different than himself, Arajan, Vadaman, Brajesha, Tanayas, Tadnama, Vrindavanam. And the whole of Vrindavan, all of them, they're all premikas, so to speak, of Sharanagatas. It's a small thing to be a Sharanagata in relation to being a premika, filled with prem. But these premikas, they show an example of Sharanagati in the Leela to teach all of us. It's a big Leela, it's played out over several chapters, a big lesson. Many things you learn from there, but this is the central lesson. Do Sharanagati, and this is how the Gita concludes. So again, Bhagavad is the theological sequel. So there's many things we could say, but this is the basic point tonight, right? We've gone on for quite some time. What is the time?
8:30.
8:30. Shri Raj Gubran ki jai. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Madhya Puri ji ki jai. Gaur Premanand. Hare